Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast powered by eBay Motors Group. It is Saturday the 26th of November and you're joined by myself, Philip Nothard.
And me, Curtis Hutchinson. This is episode 63, season 8 of Motor Trade Radio, bringing you all the chatter that matters. Once again, we've gathered together this week's big car retailing stories across the franchised and independent sectors for you to enjoy all in one place, on demand, on your podcast feed.
Well, get ready. We've got a busy show.
Yeah, I think we need to strap in for this one, don't we?
Yeah, get your brew on the side now, whatever you're drinking, whenever you're listening to today's podcast. And we've got an interview, we've got a Menable, and we've got some headlines as well. So I want to start off. We've got a busy week. It's a busy show, but personally, I want to thank everybody that supported the VRA seminar 2022, which was looking at the remarketing sector for 2023 there this week down at the Slate in Warwick. I think it was about 150 people turned up. I think it was a great networking event, some great speakers, and the feedback has been brilliant in terms of sort of insight and debate and discussion that was had on the day. So thank you for everybody that was involved with that, either setting it up or actually contributed to the day as well.
It looks a good event, Thor. I was following it on social media, probably mostly on your feed, but
Yes.
But it looks though that went really well.
No, it was great. I mean, people like Jim Saker, David Bailey, Garant from MG. We had Ewan McCurturk, who's a professor on EV technology, on batteries at the end, and I think it just fascinated everybody. Is his view on usage of EVs, and I think I have invited him to come on the podcast, Curtis, as well.
Excellent.
So hopefully
Good.
we'll get him on, because he has his own little YouTube video thing on battery electric vehicles as well. So we'll try and get him on the podcast, but we'll look forward to that one.
Talking of EVs, a random fact that I picked up this week, because I was working on the EV forum on Tuesday. One of the stats that came out of it was that only 20% of charging is actually done away from home at the moment, which really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't realise it is majority is done at home, and it's quite interesting that you and you were talking yesterday around the battery and how the manufacturers do limit the charging for some of them on batteries, that you can only take it up to 80%. It doesn't take the battery to full capacity on some vehicles, and he was saying how you should be using them, and if you're going to charge overnight or you're going to go on a long journey, then you should really charge it before you go, an hour before you go, not sort of don't charge it and then leave the vehicle, because then the battery has to warm up, which is then use the power to warm up the battery itself. So it is some fascinating insight into the usage of batteries and things like this. It's just, it was blew our minds this week on that one.
And we will return to EVs over the course of this podcast, yes. As you mentioned, Phil, we do have a special guest this week, and it's Neil Addley from Judge Service, and he'll be sharing some of the insights and trends from Judge Service's newly published State of the Nation study. So that'll be coming up shortly.
And always this week we welcome back Menable Moment from our wellness guru Stephen Whitten. He will be talking around headspace and how to manage it better. Some interesting views on that one, and how to manage that headspace for everybody.
And good luck from us to everyone shortlisted for a Car Dealer Used Car Award. We hope you all have a good evening. Everyone who goes to that's this coming Monday at the brewery in London. So we'll do a little roundup of that next week.
And again, we'll be sharing the URLs to this week's show in terms of the headlines that we're covering on Monday, as usual, and that'll be through the free newsletter on LinkedIn at Motor Trade Radio podcast there. So if you haven't subscribed, then please do look for it on the LinkedIn channel, on the Motor Trade Radio LinkedIn channel. You'll see the last couple of weeks and an easy way to access the link to the podcast, and more importantly the links to the headlines that we're covering each week.
And as ever, if you'd like to get in touch with us, come on the show or send us a press release, then just email us at motortraderadio@yahoo.com. You can also join the Motor Trade Radio LinkedIn and Facebook groups, or follow us on Twitter. But before we start with the headlines, we'd just like to mark the sad passing of Sue Baker, a colleague, automotive journalist, former Top Gear host, and really a trailblazer for women in automotive. Now, there have been quite a few obituaries published over the past week or so from Sky, the BBC, Daily Mail, The Guardian. And, for anyone who doesn't know, Sue sadly passed a fortnight ago from motor neurone disease. And the obituary we'd like to recommend is from Top Gear, and it's written by Jason Barlow, who knew Sue very well. And just on a personal note, I got to know Sue very well, pretty much from my first day in automotive journalism, which is way back in 1993, if you can believe that, Phil.
Can't be that. You
And
can't be that old, Curtis.
no, I was very young. I was wearing short trousers straight from school. But I did meet Sue on one of my first car launches when I was editing Company Car magazine. And one of the things that's come out in a lot of the social media posts that have been written about Sue was just how friendly and welcoming she was, because she was a heavyweight back then, because she'd been a co-host on Top Gear from 1980 to 1991. But she was always sort of inquisitive and welcoming, especially to new people joining the industry. So, I met Sue many, many, many times over the years and got to drive with her as well. And she was just absolutely brilliant company. And more recently, she was actually one of my roving judges when I was at Motor Trader on the Motor Trader Awards. And there was a lovely moment. She came on board and she really did freshen up the whole judging process just by her personality, her approach. But I didn't actually tell the other judges that we'd recruited Sue as a roving judge. So when we did the judging session, we turned up at, I can't remember which hotel it was, and one of the judges, who was always quite forthright and outspoken, he was totally starstruck by meeting Sue Baker and sitting around the same table as Sue, which was a lovely, lovely thing to experience.
No, I mean, there's like you say, it's really sad, and an icon of the industry, as you say there, and as you say, particularly from a female within the industry as well, and what she did. And I think I think I met her once down at Goodwood. One year when I went down to Goodwood there, and as you say, I mean, just watching over the recent week there of all the comments and notes from right across the sector who came to know Sue over the years has been great to see in some of the words there. So yeah, a true loss to the sector there, and I know you, like you say, you knew her very well and very personal. So I know it's a bit of a shock to yourself there, Curtis.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know what? When she was diagnosed with motor neurone disease, she actually took to social media to just announce it to friends and colleagues. And even at the end, she never lost her sense of humour, because she said, the irony of me having a fatal illness with the word motor in it. So,
Yes.
yeah. So thoughts are with Sue's family at this very sad time. Joining us today on the Motor Trade Radio podcast is friend of the show, Neil Addley, MD of Judge Service. Welcome back to the show, Neil.
Hi, thank you. It's really good to be back.
Good. Great to have you back on, Neil, as always. Now, we know that you've been busy over the last month or so pulling together this year's State of the Nation report, which takes a deep dive into the trends you've been identifying from the ongoing consumer research from yourselves. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this year's survey and what it's covering this time?
Sure. So this is a survey of franchise dealer customers, and it's our third time we've done this. So we started just post-pandemic, and this is the third one we've done. And I think what we're reflecting now is a Britain emerging from the COVID pandemic, but facing some real world challenges around, I suppose, energy and also vehicle supply.
And Neil, for the purposes of our conversation today, you've actually identified four key trends within the study that you'd like to share with listeners. So let's start with what is always a hot topic, and that's fuel choice. What has this year's report revealed about ICE versus electric?
Yes, sure. Very interesting, actually. I mean, you have to view all these through the lens of the cost of living crisis that's going on at the moment. So that has an impact on all the trends we're seeing. Is people are worried about the pennies in their pockets, but certainly we can see the demise of diesel. So at the moment, 21% of people are driving diesel. Their intention is that only 7% will be driving diesel the next time they buy a car. So that's falling dramatically. Petrol's also going down quite a lot, by about half, from 61% driving petrol now down to 29% intending to buy petrol in the future. And that's matched by electric, hybrid, and so on going up. So electric itself is going up from 5% to 17% in terms of future intentions. But people will only buy electric if they've got a home charger. But if they've got one, then 94% of people will stick with fully electric cars. So it's definitely the trend that we're seeing in terms of the move away from ICE to electric, and diesel is particularly suffering at the moment.
I mean, it's very interesting findings that, and I mean, with everything going on in the economy at the minute around the cost of living and the latest autumn budget statement, but listeners will be very keen to hear your findings on what consumers are saying about how they buy in terms of their showroom, online buying experiences, and more importantly, their preferences to online and showroom. What were the main findings on that subject?
So you have to bear in mind that this was a survey of franchise dealer customers, but 95% of them will still be buying from a showroom next time. So there's definitely a long-term future for car dealerships. And I think with the confusion that consumers have around BEVs, electric vehicles, those hybrids and so on, I think that there's a real role for dealers to play in advising customers about what vehicle would suit their needs. Um, but again, the cost of living crisis is affecting people's choice. And it affects the poor more than it does people who've got more money. So someone who's spending 150 grand on a Land Rover or a Range Rover isn't going to be affected by the cost of living crisis. People down the scale will be more so. Um, that said, we need to think about digital as the future, where when we look at under 25s, a quarter of them are looking at buying online. So whilst the showroom is still going to be really important for the majority of buyers, the young are definitely looking at more digital experience than the old.
And I guess the messaging there, Neil, is it is very much of a hybrid, isn't it? Dealers have got to be able to offer customers both solutions.
Absolutely, and we know that most buying experiences start online, and then they progress to the showroom as the customer gets closer to a buying decision. but it is really important that the digital experience is a good one. And what we did see was a little bit of I suppose, taking the foot off the gas with digital as we emerge from the pandemic. We need to keep the foot on the gas in terms of developing that digital experience.
Yeah. Now, we talk about the supply issues around new and used cars a lot on the podcast. What are customers telling you in the survey about how these long waiting times are actually influencing their decisions?
I think you'd have to say that customers are fairly stoic, to be honest. 85% of people are aware of the supply issues, so semiconductors, glass, metal, you name it. But 76% of them are prepared to wait for a new car. So they're prepared to wait because they understand the issues. I mean, there is a concern about whether they'll be able to afford the new car if it's 18 months later than they expected it.
Yeah.
But they are prepared to wait. 16% say that they consider a different make, but only 8% would consider a used car rather than a new. So new car buyers are very much in that mindset that they want to stick with buying a new car, which is quite interesting, quite reassuring, as long as they've got the money to pay for them when they come through.
And we can't sort of we talk about obviously the new and used car supply, how they're buying these vehicles, but after sales is obviously a key element, as you know, Neil, of any retailer in the market. What trends have you identified in terms of that after sales market from the survey?
Sure. Well, I know you talked about tyres last week, and it's always been a hobby horse of mine is that as much as possible, franchise dealers need to lock customers into buying tyres because that is the first point of defection. Um, but the other thing that's really important is service plans. 41% of people will buy a service plan and have their car serviced at the dealer they bought from, if they've got a service plan, whereas only 15% will pay as they go to have a service at a franchise dealer. 20% of people go to independents, and 16% will look at another franchise dealer, not the one they bought from. So it's really important that we focus on service plans and making sure that they're offered at point of sale. Obviously, if you get someone locked into a service plan, their customer satisfaction goes up because people like to think you're looking after their baby. And B, you've stand a lot more chance of selling them the next car because you've looked after them during the whole experience.
That's an interesting point about service plans, Neil. I mean, do you feel that dealers, by and large, are doing what they need to be doing in terms of selling service plans? Is it front of mind amongst sales staff?
I think, well, so one of the things that we do is we offer, we call it a traffic light report, like a RAG report, red, amber, green, and it's always down to the individual salesperson. So you will find, even within a great business, you will find some salespeople that are absolutely on it in offering service plans, selling finance, and the rest of it, and you'll find some salespeople that just miss that out. So it is really down to the individual, but obviously you can focus on that and make sure you train people properly, encourage them, and coach them to make sure they're offering service plans every single time they sell a car.
Now, Neil, as we're approaching the end of the year, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to ask you if there's anything that you guys at Judge Service have got planned for 2023 that you can actually share with the listeners.
Sure. As we talked about the other day, Curtis, we actually have lots going on. So we have a new reputation manager software out now, which is an online portal that allows you to see all your reviews across the internet and reply to them from within the portal. So it's a really good tool. Saves you loads of time. You've not got to go look for reviews, and also saves you money because you're not going to pay people to go look for them. And it also means you don't miss out on the odd stinker that might be somewhere you're not looking. So Reputation Manager's a great product, and we have a complaint management software called Resolution, which is with a couple of dealer groups at the moment, but we're going to roll that out over the next 12 months to most of our clients, I expect. And that allows you to see your online feedback and the rest, and use that to then manage those complaints It's from online, from people who send you an email, from people who maybe complain in the dealership. So you can actually make sure those complaints are managed properly. And then finally, we have a new referral manager tool, which takes referral checkbooks to a new level by making it a digital proposition. So instead of someone giving a check, they actually get to register their friend online, so that they can then be contacted as a prospect rather than rely on someone remembering 18 months down the line that they had a checkbook that they were given by somebody at some point in the past. So we've got some really good stuff coming down the line.
Yeah, busy time ahead for 2023.
Yeah, I was thinking
Sure.
that. Yeah, so yeah, I'm going to say it sounds busy already before you even got into the year and whatever's faced you in the new world that we're probably entering in 2023. We don't know yet, do we? We were talking before the show, 10 days at the minute is a long time in our sector, isn't it? Never
Sure.
mind any longer. But no, I mean, it's fascinating what you're doing. And you know, in terms of the dealer network, it's great that these things are being available to them to help them run their business, help them obviously manage their customers in going, customer contact and everything else. So no, it's fantastic. I mean, as always, Neil, it's great to have you back on the podcast, and great for sharing some of those findings from the Judge Service State of the Nation report that's just been published. I mean, it's obviously packed with very useful analysis and commentary, which will be of interest to anybody listening to the podcast today. Can you tell us, the listeners, of where they can maybe view or download copies of the State of the Nation report?
Sure. So for a hard copy, just email me, neil@judgeservice.com. And if you want a soft copy, it's www.judgeservice.com/state of the nation.
Brilliant. I mean, again, thanks for that. I mean, it's, you know, sharing the insight, sharing the findings, and obviously, you know, more importantly, the work that you're doing to help the dealers in terms of with their customers and manage their business. So I appreciate you coming on again today, Neil. It's always great to speak to you.
Absolute pleasure. See you soon.
Thanks very much, Neil. Well, some great comments there from Neil as ever, and I do urge you to get a hold of the State of the Nation report, because it's actually really well presented. It is quite a sort of lively, easy read, and it's absolutely packed full of some useful stats and insights and information there.
Yeah, definitely, and he's you know, just covering what they've got planned for 2023 already in terms of some of those projects and how they're going to be supporting the dealer network in terms of that engagement with customers and usage of information and stuff. It's great, and as we said to Neil there, we'll be getting him back on the show to share on further work that he's doing within the sector as well. So what have we got in the headlines this week then, Curtis? What are
Yeah.
we covering?
Headlines this week from Car Dealer, AM, Motor Trade News, and This Is Money. So headlines include EV road tax plan prompts almost 40% of motorists to reconsider purchase. Dealers worried used EVs are too expensive. AM 100, we reveal the new entrants. And it's the end of the road for another iconic car, this time a hybrid car. That will be our and finally.
So let's say we're heading over to AM Online now, and they've covered the 2022 AM 100 report with the analysis of the major UK franchise dealers. Now, this is always weighted, isn't it? There's a lot of people that are interested when this is published, and I think they did a video of it, I think, as well when they launched it, which I managed to attend some of that. But some interesting findings there. But I think we wanted to sort of focus on some of the new entrants because there wasn't much change at the top there. Although we do know someone that will be reasonably happy, don't we, Curtis?
We do indeed, yeah. As you say, the top 10 is pretty much as it was last year, but we did notice that Virtue have gone from number 5 to number 4. So we suspect that the Virtue team, and especially Robert Forrester, will be very pleased about that. But yeah, we're actually going to focus on some of the new entrants because around the bottom of the AM 100, there's a flurry of activity with some new companies coming in, starting with at number 100, there's Greven Cars. At number 99, there's Car 2. And 98, Wayland's Automotive. So John O'Hanlon and the team will be very pleased with that. Number 97, new entry is WR Davies. And at number 94, Burroughs Motor Group. So, good news for all of those dealer groups entering the AM 100 for the first time.
And sticking with AM Online, we're going to talk about EVs now, around the EV road tax, and this has prompted almost 40% of motorists to reconsider their purchase of an EV, which is interesting findings. This is fresh data straight off the back of the autumn budget, isn't it? I think, Curtis.
It is, yeah. I worked with eBay Motors Group on this, and what they did was so we had the autumn budget Thursday last week, which already seems like an eternity ago. But they commissioned some independent research over the weekend to find out what in-market buyers thought about the introduction of VED and how it might impact their future buying decisions. And what the findings show is that views are very much polarized. So 45% of respondents said that the introduction of VD on electric vehicles would not impact their buying plans, whereas 37% said the announcement would make them either reconsider their plans or drop their plans of transitioning to EVs altogether.
Yeah, no, I think there's a comment in here from Lucy Tugby, who from eBay Motors Group, that she puts a comment on it that as the clock ticks down on the 2030 ban on the sale of obviously new combustion engine vehicles, this sends out a confusing message to buyers and could have ramifications for the government's net zero targets. And that kind of seems to be the theme running across the sector at the minute, because there is the pressure at the minute around the cost of living. We know that the energy prices are high, and the cost of running an electric vehicle isn't quite as affordable as it was pre-energy crisis. So, there is reports where people are now going charging, I know they said filling up their car, charging their electric vehicle, and it's costing them, up to sort of £80
Yeah.
to take it from a 10% to sort of 80-90% charge on a public charging. So, and then on top of that, now we get the message coming out from the UK government around this taxation now, or VED on electric vehicles, and more importantly, commercial vehicles has also been involved with this, and commercial vehicles hasn't really got started around electric at the minute, and it's a barrier that the commercial vehicle market certainly does not need.
Yeah, definitely. And there was one particular stat that caught my eye in this particular story, and it was 16% of respondents said they plan to carry on and buy an electric vehicle, but they'll be looking at cars priced under £40,000 to avoid this new expensive car supplement that's going to be applied on EVs for the first time from April 2025. So even those buyers who are going ahead are sort of reconsidering what they will buy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's again a bit of they've missed that one there, aren't they, in terms of that 40,000 bracket, because a lot of the EVs are above currently that 40,000 bracket, so it does hit the EV sector pretty hard in terms of volume there.
Yeah, definitely. And staying with EVs, Motor Trade News, the headline there is "Dealers Worried Used EVs Too Expensive." Well, I think customers are as well, to be honest. This is based on some research carried out by Startline for its monthly used car tracker, and it shows 58% are concerned about the expense of EVs compared to petrol and diesel vehicles, and that's dealers.
Yeah, and this is, as you say, it's there from Startline Motor Finance, and Paul Burgess, who's the chief exec of Startline, and he's been on the podcast before, and we do need to get him back on in the new year. But he's talking about the recent announcement as well by Ford that the Fiesta production would be ending soon. Felt like a watershed moment in the mainstream car manufacturing moving towards electrification. The question is, what low-cost EVs are forthcoming that will replace the much-loved everyday car like the Fiesta? So making that point around affordability and entrance levels into that EV sector, that we haven't really got that lineup yet, have we?
No, definitely not. And a couple more interesting stats from that survey. 25% of dealers say they're troubled by their own lack of on-site charging facilities. 19% say customers aren't ready to accept EVs, and 14% say that their sales team is not trained to sell them. So uh, it's a difficult one for dealers, this, isn't it? Because they are still obviously selling ICE vehicles. They've got to prepare for the transitioning to EVs, but they themselves, have got to have that infrastructure in place. They've got to have on-site charging facilities.
Yeah, and I think just referring back to the VRA seminar this week and some data that was shared. The EVs are coming, and they're coming very, very quickly. Not just in the new vehicle market, but now in the used vehicle market, because we're going to start to see that high volume of return from those, the acceleration in the previous years around electric vehicles, and added to the pressure of new vehicles, you've got now these used vehicles entering that used vehicle park on EV, and we've got to get the message out to customers in terms of getting a market for those vehicles, and obviously the further pressure on the infrastructure.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, powered by eBay Motors Group. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media, available on demand wherever you are on your podcast feed. And now we're joined by Motor Trade wellness guru Stephen Whitten for his regular Men-able moment. This time, Steve's looking at headspace and how to manage it.
Hi guys, yeah, back for another Men-able Moments. Hope you're well and hope everyone else is doing okay. I want to talk this week about headspace and closing down some files. And what I mean by that is that we've all got busy lives, we've all got tons going on, and the stuff that stresses us and overwhelms us is all the little bits that are coming at us from all directions. And I've had a couple of those recently, and I've taken the big decision to shut a few of them down. And I suppose the analogy that I would use in that instance is a bit like having your computer on with all of your applications and programs all running at the same time. Now, eventually your computer's just going to slow down. It's not going to run right. It's not going to be as efficient as you want. And it's only when you then go through and click off or switch off some of those programs that you don't currently need that it starts to pick up a bit of life again. And I think we're like that. And I'm starting to hear and see more of it with people that I interact with, all kind of saying that they've got a lot going on. They've got loads happening in their worlds. And I remember that when I had a proper job as well, so I do know what it's like and I can empathise. But my advice and suggestion would be to take a long, hard look at what you've got going on and what can you shut down, what can you switch off, what can you remove that will give you some headspace. Now, another way of looking at it is that very soon you're going to be going up in the loft and pulling out those Christmas decorations. Maybe you've already done it. Or you'll be doing it fairly soon. And within that lot, if you're anything like I used to be, you'll have a great big bundle of Christmas tree lights, and they'll all be one big tangled mess, despite however tidily you put them away last year. And you'll plug them in, and lo and behold, guess what? They don't work. Your job then is to go through and change each individual bulb until you find the one that doesn't work. And daft analogy, I know, but I thought it was quite timely. But the point is that sometimes our lives and our worlds can be a little bit like that. So what we need to do is to go through and find out which of those bulbs isn't working, isn't serving us well, is stopping us from being as productive and efficient as possible, and just start removing the ones that don't work. Now, it sounds a bit brutal, and of course I don't mean it like that, but I'm talking about shutting down some of those smaller little things that happen in our lives and just allowing yourself to have some headspace. Now, there's two things that come to mind when I talk about that. One is the freedom to do it, and the second part is the freedom to live with the consequences. Because ultimately, in doing that, it may well mean that you are going to have to say no to somebody or to something, and that may well be something that you've traditionally just done or just got on with. So, a few things there to think about. Give yourself some headspace. It's quite a stressful time of year that we're coming up to, and we all know there's a lot going on in the world. Everything's a bit doom and gloom. So, yeah, give yourself some headspace. Have a little bit of an edit, a clear out, whatever you want to call it, and think about those things that you can shut down or switch off. Even if it is just a half a dozen, few little bits, maybe not even that many, that you don't need anymore that are not serving you well. As always, if you want to talk through that, because sometimes it's difficult to see those because we've got a few blockers. We've got a few things going on or in our way that prevent us actually seeing what those things really are. So as always, if you want to reach out and have a chat, get hold of me on stephen.witten@menable.org or through the website menable.org. And I, guys, will speak to you or see you next time. Take care. See you soon.
How many people are going to start thinking about getting the Christmas tree lights out? Make sure they're working on the back of that now.
Yeah, well, I should imagine pretty much everyone listening to this today.
No, but I mean some great thoughts there and analogies and in terms of that shutting things down. I mean, the amount of times you do sit on your computer and think, it's running a bit slow, and you start to shut down the open apps or on your mobile phone, and you do, and he's right that just take a little bit of time out, slow down a little bit, and do shut a few things down and make sure that you are looking after yourself. So so some great again come from Stephen there and saying, we're now talking on the 29th of November. We shouldn't really be talking about Christmas until December, so we'll get a little bit of abuse for that. But I'm sure there'll be a few people checking their Christmas tree lights now on to make sure that they do work.
I think we can forgive Stephen because I noticed the TV ads for Christmas started pretty much the day after Halloween. So
yes, yeah. So we're well and truly on that road now, aren't we? So, and with final story, and make you feel a little bit old again, Curtis. So we'll apologise for that one in advance. But we're going to be heading over to This Is Money. And this is we're talking about the original poster boy for green motoring is no more in Britain. I don't know where they got that title from, but
we do love their headlines, don't we?
Yeah, Toyota unveils the 5th generation Prius hybrid, but it won't be sold to UK customers. Now, without doubt, This Is Money are always known for their long headlines, but they've deep dived into their image library this week as well, with the lots of images on the Prius with A-listers, and particularly over in California there.
Yeah, I mean, the Prius was beloved by the Hollywood fraternity, and there's some great shots on this story of the likes of Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, and many others with their Priuses. But yeah, as you say, the story is that the fifth generation Prius has been unveiled in Japan, but Toyota UK have confirmed that it will not be sold here. And if you look at the sales figures, it kind of answers why that would be, because last year the Prius in the UK sold just 563 units, whereas if you were to rewind, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, it would have been one of Toyota's better selling cars. But I guess it's become a victim of Toyota's own success in producing hybrids, especially SUV hybrids like the CHR, which last year sold 18,000 units. So that's really why it's the end of the road, because consumers, buyers aren't actually looking for those sort of saloon type EV hybrids. They want an SUV.
Yeah, no, you're right, and they do obviously talk about that. Toyota says there is still a car in its UK range for the customers that do want that sort of that Prius kind of vehicle, but acknowledging its popularity in the private hire market, they still be able to they'll be operating who continue the reliable hybrid technology, but with the UK built Corolla touring sports estate. So they're moving away from the Prius and for sort of replacement, focusing on the Corolla. But we on the subject of making you feel old, Curtis. I mean, it's this the Toyota's been a
You've raised it again.
I have 22 years.
Yeah.
This vehicle now. When we talk about 22 years, it doesn't seem that long ago, does it?
No, it's bonkers, really, because I was on the original launch of the Prius, which was held in Florence. It was an amazing launch, and I do remember setting off in the morning from the hotel, which was on this piazza, and there were probably 20 odd Priuses lined up, and we all started up the engines, bearing in mind this is 22 years ago. And it was quiet. So we all drove off across this piazza. How we didn't knock down any tourists, I've no idea. But we managed to get out of the piazza unheard and unseen. And yeah, the Prius, it has been an incredible success story for Toyota. And I'm finding I'm struggling to believe that, it's been around for 22 years, because it doesn't seem that old.
No, well, to be fair, the year 2000 doesn't seem that long ago, does it?
No,
no. Everything was going to crash, wasn't it, when we turned over to the year 2000, if you remember.
I do, yes.
But, no. So I say, it's sad news, really. I think it's an iconic vehicle, particularly in that sort of private hire sector. But yeah, they are moving away, focusing on alternative vehicles there, but still producing it. So the A-list celebrities in California look like they'll be able to get that fifth generation Prius, but not in the UK, unfortunately. So again, do head over to the story, and as we said right at the show, the link to this news story will be in the newsletter on Monday. So if you want to look at any pictures on A-listers getting in and out of their Toyota Priuses, then there is a full library of them on This Is Money there.
But that's all for now, Phil. You've been listening to the weekly Motor Trade Radio podcast powered by eBay Motors Group. Many thanks for joining us for all the chat that matters. We're back with the headlines next weekend. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.